Let us be clear about what sustainability really means, lest we deceive ourselves into believing that implementing some greening initiatives means we have made it. A sustainable state is one which is able to provide the basic needs of all its people in such a way that future generations are not denied access to and benefit from a finite set of resources. Among those who look closely at the ebbs and flows of democracy, there's one fact about which there is general consensus, that extreme inequality is incompatible with democracy. In this respect, Thomas Piketty's conclusions are difficult to dispute. It's an advantage of being in prison for a long time because we can digest these books better. That while rising inequality is not the inevitable result of capitalism, the manner in which governments pursue growth and implement economic policy can either mitigate or exacerbate the problem. Confronting authoritarianism entails the creation of a system which controls, nay, overcomes the manifestations of capitalism, which show a lack of concern for the vast majority of the poor and the working poor, from earnings gap between workers and executives, minimum wage, that dooms people to a generation of grinding poverty. The provision of medical benefits, better working conditions, financial assistance to workers' families will also be crucial so as to help define the appropriate distribution of the benefits and burdens of social cooperation. If we can no longer be naive about the contradiction between a development agenda that prioritizes growth but ignores inequality, then we must be progressive in identifying the right policy regime that maximizes sustainability and distributive justice instead of maximizing profits and treating sustainability as a mere afterthought. Since the last 2 decades, the world witnessed a democratic recession. With the advent of globalization, free trade, the internet, and liberal intervention, the world was supposed to have witnessed the global spread of democracy. Fukuyama spoke of the end of history, extolling the triumph of liberalism over authoritarianism. Although I must concede that Fukuyama's latest writings, political economy, takes a rather different, more positive outlook about the need for democratic accountability. But such optimism would have been justified by the advent of the Arab Spring, but for the fact that spring turned into winter of great discontent. The rise of right-wing activism at the beginning of the 21st century is a perverse, bizarre, and deeply troubling recurrence of history. After decades, when generations assumed continuing expanding horizons, the global economic crisis of 2008 was an abrupt shock. Since then, there has been an awakening to the stark reality that around the world, ordinary people are struggling to maintain a lifestyle on par with previous generations, while elites amass a greater share of the economic pie. And today, we witness that not only has history not ended, but there has been a revival of authoritarianism. A more insidious form marked by the resurrection of the ghosts of the past, made all more sinister because of the trappings of democracy. This descent into authoritarianism under the guise of popular democracy has taken on the eerie cadence and atmosphere not quite different from Dante's opening lines in the Inferno, where we have found ourselves within a forest dark, for the straightforward pathway had been lost. And indeed, this is a forest savage, rough and stern. But unlike Dante's fear, which will eventually find redemption, albeit many cantos later, we are caught in the grip of a self-generated fear of the other. The powers that be question the motives, intentions, and aspirations of people deemed to be different. They are attempting to close borders and building walls of separation, with a clarion call to rely on our own identity and to keep away disease in the myriad forms. The solace that people may find in demagoguery is certainly tied to their disdain for a government that has failed to meet the overall needs of the people. In this sense, we must accept the reality that unfettered capitalism can sow the seeds for the unraveling of society unless these pernicious forces are challenged.